welcome to the late night stream in terror. Today I'm joined by Michael Kelso. And I just want to say good evening, Sydney and Derringer, and thank you for being a member for 13 months, which means you've been a member for more than a year. Damn. I've been monetized for more than a year now. Jeez. I made 3 whole pennies. Good evening, September Dragon Audio. On screen right now, you can see Michael's face as well as some of the books he's written. The brand new one being The Cryptid Hunter, which he just put out, this month? 2nd January? So literally 3 days ago. And that's fair. And Sydney has one of your books. I remember last time you were on, she bought one of your books. And I even have the link to his newest book down below for you guys, so it's easy to find. It's on Amazon. I saw it's on Amazon. Yeah, I actually did some stuff. I actually got things together. Ooh, look at me being all professional. Good evening, Dr. Torment and Interscare Sleep. Welcome, guys. Actually, he was on not last week, but the week before. He's also much bigger. He's like got 50,000 subscribers compared to my like 1. Yes. Hold on, apparently... Oh, they couldn't hear you this whole time. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I'm joined by Michael Kelso. I am so sorry about that.
Okay,
Yes.
Am I doing something here?
No, it's not you. It was me. I forgot because I didn't have anyone on last week. I muted my computer just in case.
Okay.
That was my mistake. Sorry, guys. So, yes. Yes, horror is definitely a very small community. Once you join it, like, everyone knows everyone.
Yeah.
Hello, Spy Fox.
It's fun. You know, I used to be on a site called Fan Story, and I had a couple of mentors that really helped me, increase my writing, get my writing better and whatnot. And we were like this tight little group. There was like 5 of us that were horror writers. And of course there was all kinds of other writers on the site, but we were all just like this tight little group. And we would all like try to one-up each other with our stories and whatnot.
Like you do. You always try to one-up each other on your stories. I know I try to one-up myself sometimes on the narrations of stories I know other people have done.
Yeah, but I think most times it's like a friendly competition, or like you said, competing against yourself.
Yeah.
And it's just enough to like motivate you, like, oh, I can do that a little better.
Yeah. Well, there's so many times where I listen to a narration, I'm like, I could have done that part better. I could have done that part better.
Yep. I'll read back over books and like cringe and like, okay, I got to go in and fix that.
Can't leave that way. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
It's also why editors are so helpful, because sometimes they catch things that you miss too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They say it's impossible to edit yourself. And I mean, you can try, but somebody else is always going to pick something out of the crowd and say, wait a minute.
I did sometimes even just them like, hey, that didn't make sense. We need to explain it better. Or, hey, let's change these words around a little bit, because if you do that, it will punch a little bit better. There's sometimes seeing stuff that you can't see. 100% you shouldn't edit yourself.
Well, but also, like, you grow as a writer. So like I said, I'll go back over my old stuff and I'll be like, oh, whoa, that is so cringeworthy. And I'll edit it up to the level where I'm at now, So you can edit yourself in some areas, but yeah, whenever I write a book, I've read that book so many times over and over that I already know what's there. So sometimes I just don't see the words, and just don't see the mistake. Exactly. And the worst part is when there's words that aren't misspelled, excuse me, but it's just it's not the right word. So I missed a letter, but it still spells a word. So, spell check didn't get it.
Exactly. Yep. Yes. I love how spell check is really helpful until it fails you.
Yeah. Well, it's I love Grammarly, but Grammarly even sometimes it'll say, oh, you should write this way. I'm like, that makes no sense at all.
Yes, yeah. I've seen that with Grammarly. It's no. I even had that a few times with when I'm sending out messages, you should change it to this. And I'm like, why? No, I don't need to do that. Just let it be. It's stupid and simple, and you're overcomplicating it.
Yeah, I had a phone that I had to turn spell check off because I would type one letter and it would give me the weirdest words. I'm like, no, I don't want to say that, So I'm trying to type out, and it was auto correcting me as I'm going. I'm like, no, that's not what I want to say. So, yeah.
Interscare says he still can't hear you. Can you guys hear Michael now, by chance?
It's for whatever reason, mine's cutting in and out.
Hold on, let's just double check.
Let me see.
Because I do see when you're talking, my computer's doing, I have things listed a certain way. It says that you're there. Okay, okay. Dr. Torment says he can hear you. Okay. And Cindy said she can now. Perfect. Oh, he's far behind. Okay, that makes sense why I can't hear you. Or why I can't hear you yet, because that far back, I hadn't fixed it yet, because I'm a smart cookie. Thank you guys. I just want to make sure. I'm a professional goofball.
Yeah, I agree with September Dragon. I love and hate spell check. There's sometimes it can really help, and other times it's oh, please stop.
Yeah, no, exactly. And because I use British spelling, because I'm Canadian, and it wants to do American spelling, I have so many words that I don't know how to spell them anymore because I've known the American spelling, so it's incorrect when I do the British, but when I do it, it's no, it's spelled like this. I'm like, no, it's not. I'm Canadian. It's spelled British. Gray. Gray has an A in one and an E in another.
Yeah.
I'm like, why? Either way, someone knows what you're talking about, so.
Yeah, I usually use the E, and with stuff like okay, instead of spelling out OKAY, I'll just use the O and the K. Yeah. And it just with those, once I get to one, I just kind of stubbornly stick with it.
Yeah, that's fair. No, OK's pretty much become the letters O and K. That, everyone knows what that means. Heck, I didn't even know it had an AY until I was well into my adulthood. Apparently, when September writes, he uses British spelling as well. And he is American. You're a weird dragon.
So when you're writing September, do you actually hear a British voice in your head?
It's because he reads too many books, that's why. It's all British in his head now. It's really funny. Whenever I spell color and I throw the U in, it's this is spelled incorrect. No! I like my U! Leave my U alone! It's one of the few ones.
I don't know what the deal is with me, but for whatever reason, when I'm typing, I will almost 100% misspell from. I will always spell it form.
I get that, yeah.
And I don't know why. My fingers just trip over each other or whatever. Oh, you know, British spelling, says the Belgian. He hears his grandfather's German voice. That's cool.
That would be why he has the British spelling. It's only, like, everyone does British spelling except for America. That's it. America's the only one that has.
Oh, well.
And it has to do with when they got independence and when English got standardized. It was after the independence, and America decided to standardize certain words differently than the British did. So
I think you had it right when you tripped and started to say sterilize. I think that was right.
I mean, I get some of it. Like, some of it makes sense. Like, color, you really don't need the U. I just think it looks better with the U. Gray, A, yeah, I get the A and I get the E. Like, they both make the same friggin' sound. My favorite joke is English is 3 different languages in a trench coat, trying very carefully to be a different language.
Nice.
I'm not the one that came up with that joke, but I really do picture it. It's French, German, and Latin in my head are the 3 languages in the trench coat.
Yeah. I always, I mean, purebred Mark, and so I've always just like, it's American and then English, you know.
See, if you guys didn't throw that giant tea party, we wouldn't have this problem.
Grammarly is the ChatGPT of writing.
It helps you look
without editing.
And now he said he can hear you. Yeah, he was a little bit far in the past, I think.
So, Interscare brings up actually an interesting question. I mean, what does everybody view on the whole AI thing? I mean, I know for me, it's kind of scary. Thinking about, like, you can actually program your own voice into it and it narrates in your voice.
I don't like it. That part, unless I had a really bad cold to the point where I couldn't narrate and I had to get a video out, I'm not for it. They're now using those technologies to scam people. They will find your mother's voice, take it, phone you with it, saying, "Oh, I just need help because the tow truck's here. Just send me money." But it's your mother's voice.
Yep.
That's scary. To me, that there should be a strict rule on who can be an AI voice, and it should not be allowed to be everyone. And the problem is I have way too many clips out there by now that 100% my voice can be completely made into an AI voice, and I'm not for it. I don't like AI voices. It's especially for narrating. You don't get the feeling, you don't get the real emotions that narrators can bring into it because there's nuance to it, and then every narrator reads differently. Well, an AI is going to read it the same way every time, so you lose the nuance and the actual storytelling to it. But I do feel different about the pictures.
Yeah. Well, actually, Amazon now, whenever you go to put up a book, it will, as you're setting it up, say, "Was this made using AI? Yes or no?" And they, I think it's for the cover design and whatnot. But yeah, actually, for the voices, there's one guy that narrates one of my stories. He asks me all the time, "Can I narrate your stories?" I'm sure, but he uses an AI that sounds like a young Morgan Freeman, and it does pretty good with the inflections and everything. It's getting real scary. And I mean, of course, me as a horror author, I can see all kinds of downfalls. I started writing a story about, the downside of AI.
Yeah.
One of these days I'll actually finish it. 100% against AI voices. And Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, you're taking someone's voice,
Yeah.
and some
Voice.
narrator. What's that?
I was going to say some voice actors, they have had their voice stolen and then had an AI say stuff that they never said and have had problems of fighting saying, I never said that. That's not me. And,
Yeah.
And now you're throwing people into. It sounds like their voice. It sounds exactly like them. It's very hard. It's very hard to say if that was actually them or not. So
Yeah.
it's scary.
Yeah, I agree with September. As a voice actor, AI is well on its way.
Yeah.
And if studios can just punch the words into a computer and crank it right out and don't have to wait for people to get it done.
Or pay them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think they've already had some animated, like, cheap videos have had AI voices instead of real voices. It's a new technology that's needs new laws. That's the problem. Right now we're watching a new industry grow. I do use AI generated pictures for my backgrounds, but at the same time, these aren't things I'm going to pay someone to do. Like, I'm not taking money from anyone. This is never something I'm paying someone for. I used to pay for a site that I could take pictures off of that someone had taken, but I'm paying this a little bit less for getting exactly what I want. So it's hard, but it is what it is. Like using someone's voice for AI without their consent should be considered.
I agree with Interscare.
It should be identity theft. Yes.
Yep.
It's exactly what it is. It is identity theft. It's stealing your voice. It's literally stealing someone's voice and taking their speech from them. So, yeah. No, AI needs to have some very careful. AI is not going anywhere. The cat is out of the bag at this point, but laws need to catch up quickly before we have problems. So, yeah.
I just can't believe in a generation that has all seen Terminator and Terminator 2 that we're this far advanced on AI. Nobody said, shut this down. Of course, that's the horror writer in me too.
Yes, and I mean, of course, Terminator is a horror movie, but the problem is there is horror. Literally, if I came across and heard my voice saying something I never said, I would be like, what?
Well, did you see the new Mission Impossible movie?
No.
They're kind of hinting at that in there. It was really good. I liked it.
Not a big Tom Cruise fan.
Oh, sorry. I love Tom Cruise. I think it's amazing he's doing what he's doing at nearly 70 years old.
Is he that old? Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he's in his 60s.
That would track, actually, because he was big in the 80s. He was 20 in the 80s. That would definitely track. I feel old. Okay.
I'm sorry, I got us off topic with the AI thing.
No, that's part of all of this. To me, this stream is just talking and also promoting stuff, right? So we're promoting your brand new book, and that's why I've got it on the pictures, and also sent the link, which I want to send again.
Cool.
You feel old? What about Tom?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, one of the reasons I respect him is because he works on his craft, and he has a trailer that goes along with him on movies that he calls his torture chamber, which is where all his exercise, and he works out like every single day. So, I mean,
you would have to
love him or hate him, you got to respect him.
I can respect the craft, but I don't have to respect the man.
Right. Okay, respect what he does.
Yes. But we're not going to get into things. I don't bring up certain things for a reason. If we can be useful tool, yeah. So AI, in my opinion, is very much like a pew pew weapon. It can be a very useful tool at times and under the right circumstances, but when it gets used improperly, then it can be very destructive, and that is where we're at right now.
Yeah. To me, that sounds like the same thing as a gun.
That's what he said, pew pew weapon.
Can be used.
YouTube doesn't like that word.
Oh, okay. Pew pew. Okay, my bad. Don't want to get you edited out or anything. But yeah, it's definitely, yeah, it can be used for a good reason, but the person behind it has to be responsible.
Yeah, and there needs to be laws and protections on who should be allowed to use it, when you can use it, when you've gone too far, and there is laws to somehow protect people in some way, right? And the problem is right now we're in that in between part where it's this brand new tech and the laws haven't catched up. And the problem is the laws are very slow. Which is fair. I mean, they have to go through their checks and balances, but because our technology is changing so much, it's almost becoming detrimental that how slow tech is going. So
yeah.
I don't watch a lot of stuff. I don't know what you're talking about. Me on half the time on YouTube listening to random like politician stuff, and
I don't actually watch a lot of TV. Some movies and whatnot, but whatever anybody else is watching on the TV. Right now my daughter's into Big Bang Theory, so I'll just sit and watch that with her.
It was really good when it started, and then the problem with any show that goes on for too long is the characters become caricatures of each other. So originally they were nerds, and how they were trying and trying to live in a world of regular people, and how they interacted in that way. And then they became less sophisticated as time went on, and I think after the first ever wedding they had was, I stopped watching after that, when the girl
Penny.
Not Penny, this is before Penny and him get married. It was the one before that. It was the one
Bernadette?
Bernadette, with the mom. I love that mom, and I'm so sad that actress died. She was so sweet.
Interscare. Actually, my daughter started watching Young Sheldon first, and we've caught up to where they are, and she loves watching with her mom. We'll all sit and watch it together, and we love Young Sheldon, but we've caught up to where it is on the streaming platforms. So now she went back and started Big Bang Theory. So if you can imagine watching all of Young Sheldon and then starting Big Bang, that's what she's done.
That actor who plays Sheldon also is a germaphobe, actually. That's why there's a couple seasons or at least a couple episodes where his skin was really red. He was having a really bad, a bad mental break for a little bit there about just things being touched and him being touched. He's not the first big actor to be a germaphobe that I know of, so.
Is that in Big Bang Theory where you're talking Jim Parsons?
Yeah, that actual actor doesn't like being touched, he's a bit of a germaphobe, so.
Yeah. Howie Mandel.
Yep, he is also a germaphobe as well. He's the other one I know.
Well, actually, I heard something else about Jim Parsons, that he's never watched a single episode of Star Trek.
Yes.
But you watch the show and he's like this extreme Trekkie.
Yep, that would track. I'm a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah. So
much
original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. Which was your favorite?
Voyager.
Really?
I'm the weird one who really liked Voyager. Yeah.
I couldn't get into Voyager that much. Next Generation was mine.
I loved Next Generation. So I grew up. I watched Next Generation since it came out. I was born before Next Generation came out. I am older. But there was something about when we sat down and watched Voyager together and watching Janeway and watching her literally, instead of being in an area where they have everything and are able to get help, they had to figure out how to help themselves. And it was the first time that's ever happened where they really were alone. There was no one ever going to come help them. They could put out a message at any time. They lost half their crew. They brought in these people that they literally were fighting. And it just, to me, I think, and I loved the Borg. Borg are like, they scare the shit out of me. They always have. And Seven of Nine was like my favorite character. Just like her learning and coming back to her humanity, because she literally had been a Borg since she was a child, was just, it's hard to explain. And then the ending was like one of my favorite endings. But I've always loved Star Trek and how like weird they can get. Like I recently have watched Discovery, and I accidentally watched two things out of order. I watched the brand new Star Trek that has Christopher Pike in it. So they have.
Are you talking the movies or the series?
Series. There's a brand new series called New Worlds, Star Trek New Worlds, and it has Christopher Pike as the captain. So this is him as the captain before Kurt takes over. I watched that first, and then I watched Discovery, and now Discovery was what you should have watched first before you watched that, because the series literally bleeds into the other one.
Yeah.
He literally finds out his future by Klingon monks.
Nice.
Which is such a weird thing to say. And apparently September loved Voyager too. Sydney loves Star Trek as well.
Yeah. Inner scares all Kirk, huh?
Kirk over Picard. And I get that. Kurt was fun to watch. Picard was very much by the book.
What's really funny, I watched a video the other day with I'm sorry, William Shatner, and he was watching people, you know those videos where actors react at people reacting to them, doing impressions of them. And this guy, I think it was Bill Hader, was doing like a spot on Kirk impression, doing all the pauses, the way, and Shatner was sitting there saying, I don't talk like that. I'm like, are you kidding me? You've been doing that for decades.
In the show, he was a lot worse for it. But that was something to do with that character. But yeah, he has these pauses, and it's really funny. Apparently, September's second favorite is Deep Space Nine, and Dr. Torment says you will be added. Your biological and tech distinctiveness will be added to our own.
There's your Borg. I liked Deep Space Nine. I really liked it. It was
one of the darker
more
series.
like a little town. Mm-hmm. Rather than, hey, we're going here, we're going there. And I like Deep Space Nine.
The 90s was when they really started branching out and like trying different things. So you had Next Generation restarted everything. The actor who played Picard,
Patrick Stewart,
he took the role, and it was so funny because his manager said they're trying to revamp a very old TV series. It's never going to work. 9 seasons later, he's still making movies.
Well, I watched Next Generation from episode 1 live on TV I forget what night. I think it was a Thursday that they were on. And honestly, Next Generation took until like season 3 till they really started to coalesce. Seasons 1 or 2 were pretty rough. In season 2, I wanted to strangle that doctor that replaced Beverly. She was just But yeah, season 3 they really started to come together.
I can't remember when he died. The writer, the actual creator. It really changed Yeah, when Roddenberry passed away, it really changed, and in some ways good, some ways bad. He was really trying to push some envelopes, which is not a bad thing, but when he passed, everything's gone a different way. That's when we got Deep Space Nine. So we had Star Trek, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager all coming out at the same time at one point. 3 Star Trek shows coming out at the same time, which is...
Well, and then there was movies coming out every other year, too.
Yep. You had the original cast came back for a little bit, and then you had the Next Generation doing theirs, and then you had the, like, bleed over, too. It was really... Star Trek in the 90s, we will never have again. Like, there's no way they would put that much stuff out again. But it has been really nice to see Star Trek come back, and Discovery has been pushing some envelopes again, and so has New Worlds has been pushing envelopes. And it's really nice to see what Christopher Pike was doing, which was supposed to be the original captain, but the actor passed away after the pilot.
Yeah.
So that's why they had to go with Kurt, because quite literally the actor had passed away.
Right.
But yeah, the actor who played him was completely on Roddenberry's side. He wanted to really push things, which, I mean, Star Trek, the original series, really pushed stuff for the time.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were going to say?
The new movies are really like my favorite of the Star Trek movies. The original cast movies, like if you watch the even ones, they're good. If you watch the odd ones, they're horrible. Next Generation never really got to do like one good movie.
Yeah.
But these new ones with Chris Pine,
yes,
I love them. And especially since they kind of like took it out of the timeline.
Yes.
You know, so like its own timeline, and some of the stuff they did, especially with like him and Spock, really having this big animosity against each other in the first movie, and then they finally come. Yeah, I really like those because they're allowed to be their own thing.
Exactly, and I'm all for that. Tell a story, retell a story, but do it in a different way. Do not rehash the same stuff.
Yes, and I think a big part of that is because J.J. Abrams has been involved with it.
Yes, and J.J. is pretty good. J.J. set up, like, everyone complains the original, like, not the original, but, like, number 7 of the Star Wars played it too safe. I'm like, he kind of had to, but he was setting things up in a certain way that they could go a bunch of different ways, but they wanted to play it safe with that one to reintroduce everyone to Star Wars, and... Yeah. He didn't want the same stuff all over again. He was going somewhere else with it, but we got a different director and writers in the second and third movie, and that caused problems. It should be, if you're doing a series, if you know that it's going to be a trilogy, make sure you have the same director and writers for those trilogies. Otherwise, you have, your parents were nothing. Just kidding. I haven't even seen the last movie. Like, I already know what happened in it, and I'm just... It was just like, oh yeah, your parents were nothing. Just kidding. It's like, no. Yeah. Don't do that. That's pulling the rug out from someone.
Yeah. To me, 8, and I'll always say this, 8, most of the movie was just like an OJ chase in space. Because there was no reason with that entire Imperial fleet they couldn't have told 2 Star Destroyers, warp out, warp back in front of these guys, blow them away. Not, hey, let's follow these guys along at a, OJ pace for half the movie and bore everyone to death.
Yeah, well, the problem... So, Star Wars and Star Trek, of course, are different. I always found Star Wars, weirdly enough, a slower pace movie to me. Well, it might just be because Star Trek, of course, has always been more of a series-based thing than a movie-based thing. But even the movies feel faster paced to me than Star Wars. But Star Wars was always supposed to be an opera in space. So it had to have a different feel. While Star Trek... I think it's supposed to be adventure in space. I don't know what's, like, like, again, it's supposed to be a series originally, but I always even found the movies faster paced than Star Wars, and they are normally shorter than Star Wars.
Yeah.
I grew up watching New Hope every year with my dad. We'd go to the movie theater because they would re-release it every year, and I loved going to see the movie with my dad, but I didn't really like the movies. I loved watching Star Trek with him, though, and my mom. Like, we watched Star Trek all the time, but I would go watch Star Wars. But I come to realize as I got older, I was like, I did a lot of stuff that my dad liked that I really didn't like because I just wanted to spend time with my dad. There's a list.
You said about your age the other day. Here, I'm going to give away my age. My father and I went to see the first Star Wars movie in the theater when I was 8 years old.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. But I agree with Dr. Torment that Rian Johnson killed it. And the casino scene, if I ever watch that movie, I fast forward through the casino scene. I just can't. Now, Rian Johnson did great with Knives Out. I loved Knives Out. And it's one of the few mysteries that actually made me guess at the end. But yeah, he just tore it up with the... And I'm looking now, like, they have this new director that is going to direct the next Star Wars movie. And she says that she enjoys making men feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, why would you say that? So you've just said that you're going to alienate most of your audience for the next movie?
If not half.
And it proves to me that there's an agenda there. And then with that statement, you look back at it and you look at 7, 8, and 9. What did they do in each one of those? Killed off one of the main strong male characters.
They killed
they're
female,
completely sanitizing it to become this political, whatever ideological statement. It's like, just make a movie.
Yeah. With Star Wars, you don't need
space.
Yeah, that's what. So our Dragon Audio, Miss Dragon doesn't like Star Wars. She says she sees it as Family Feud in space. Miss Dragon is a Trekkie, sorry. Yeah, no, I get it. And you know what? With the last three movies, they had the chance of finally not having a Family Feud in space. And that's what I was hoping it was going to be, that she had nothing to do with anything, and it just happened that she was, sensitive and was able to help. I don't know.
And that's what they, at the end of 8, okay, so the kid zaps the broom up into his hand, does a Harry Potter, proving that you don't have to be part of the Skywalker family, and then in the next movie, what do they say? Oh, you have to be part of the Skywalker.
Yeah, exactly. And
it's like they went against everything that they were setting up.
Mm-hmm. It would have been so much better if it wasn't part of all that.
Yeah.
But there's nothing we can do about it. We don't own the rights. We can just read the, what do they call that? There was the extended universe for like the longest time that was all in the books.
Well, the canon.
Yeah, they got rid of it because it's no longer canon, but they are taking stuff off it. In the books, they killed Chewie with a moon. I mean,
yes, I read that.
I think what?
That was in the Yuuzhan Vong.
I think if you're going to kill Chewie, saving those he loves and being killed by a moon is pretty badass. Just gonna say.
Yeah. Dr. Torment, yes, absolutely. I read, I can't even remember the name of that trilogy. Heir to the Empire. Yes, Heir to the Empire. I read that. That blew me away. Absolutely, that should have been the next trilogy of Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. Thrawn is my favorite Star Wars character except for Vader. And I've always said, I heard this here a while back and I picked it up. Thrawn is like watching Sherlock Holmes command a Star Destroyer. He is that smart, and he will manipulate everyone around him to be able to get his goals. I love Thrawn.
I've never, sadly, read any of the extended universe, so...
Oh, if you're going to read any series, the Heir to the Empire series is just amazing. It reminds me so much of the original series. But a picture is. Oh, that's cool. Cindy.
My brother painted the picture in 1977 for our theater in town for when Star Wars was coming out. Nice. Sorry, I always read the comments because this also goes on to a podcast where they can't read them in the end. So.
Oh, okay.
Try to give context for later. I've read and stupid heart thingy.
Well, when they started that whole Yuuzhan Vong invasion where Chewie ends up getting killed in like book 2 or book 3, it went 20 books written by like 6-7 different authors. And it got so it bogged down. I made it like 4 books and I was like, no, I can't do this anymore. So I think they really killed it with that.
And the thing is, like, those books were written by so many different writers and stuff too, so
yeah, so it becomes not only the story but how well the person tells the story. That's why I think Timothy Zahn is like one of the best Star Wars writers, which of course he wrote that Thrawn trilogy and he's done several more since then, but I think he's a really great writer, especially for Star Wars. The shield of powder. Yes, absolutely, Dr. Tormund. Thrawn went toe-to-toe with Palpatine. He even went toe-to-toe with Vader and won. You know? So yeah, Thrawn is definitely the guy.
Remember yourself, don't piss off him.
Sorry, I'm kind of Star Wars geeking out.
No, it's all good. I'm like, someone who beat Vader is, that's really hard to do. Vader's supposed to be like the A tier.
But not physically.
No,
he bested him, but not physically.
Yeah, no.
He outmaneuvered him.
Yes, and because he's literally stuck in a suit to keep him alive.
Yeah. One of the best scenes I ever read in any Star Wars book, it was Shadows of the Empire. There was just a cheesy little book that was thrown out to have a story for the even worse N64 game.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that was in there was one scene where Vader was not in his armor and he was fighting off against, he has these droids made that literally can kill him to practice, to keep himself in shape and whatnot. And he was fighting these droids and one of them like nicked him or whatever. And he had to make himself angry to heal himself. But then as soon as he got healed, he started feeling happy. And as soon as he started feeling happy, all the power drained out of him and the healing went away.
Oh.
And it's just that one scene to me has so coalesced my feelings for Vader of like, this guy is so conflicted. He's been manipulated for his entire life. And I really had I never really liked the way the jump went from episode 3 to episode 4 with Vader, especially with all the stuff that Ben Kenobi was saying and all that stuff. It didn't gel for me until that Kenobi miniseries. And that was just amazing. And they finally answered questions for me with that. And especially when it comes down to the confrontation scenes between Kenobi and Vader.
Yeah.
And it's so amazing, and it put everything in its place.
Well, and you also do know, like, between season 3 or episode 3 and episode 4, there's been a big time difference between the two. So a lot of stuff has happened between that. So there would have been character growth and change, right? So, because you literally have 17 years, I think, because that's how old Luke is. He's 17 or 18.
I'm not sure.
He's a young adult at that point. So, and my husband's a huge Star Wars nerd. He's read most of the books. And he said flat out the reason why Vader never came to Tatooine was because he knew Luke was down there. He knew where Luke was. He knew Luke was alive for some reason. And he knew that if he stepped foot on that planet, he would no longer be Vader anymore. He'd be Anakin again. And that's why he refused.
It was also where his mom died.
Yeah. I think it's also, yeah, he said he never stepped foot on that planet again because he knew he would no longer be Vader. He'd be Anakin again. And it'd be done. He'd be over. It was, and I think that's maybe even why they sent Luke there, is they knew that was the one place that Vader would never go, so he was safe.
Yeah. Yep. But like then, oh shoot, I just lost that train of thought. If you look at The Empire Strikes Back, hands down the best Star Wars movie. That's my statement there. When Luke and Vader start fighting each other, Vader was just toying with him the whole time. He wanted to see if Luke was worthy. Mm-hmm. That's why when he first went into the pit, when he fell into the pit, and Vader said, all too easy. And he was just going to freeze him and say, okay, he's not worthy. But Luke got out and he said, impressive. So at that point, he started seeing him as more of a, okay, this is someone I can train. This is someone that can help me defeat the Emperor.
Yes.
That's why instead of killing him, he just chopped off his hand.
Yeah. Dr. Torment said, no, Tatooine is full of sand. He doesn't like sand. It's coarse and gets everywhere. And to be fair, he does wear a suit now where it would get in everywhere.
Yep.
Oh, God.
So, okay, somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Somebody who's seen the Kenobi series, what planet did they have their fight on? Did Kenobi and Vader have their fight on? Because I think it was Tatooine.
No, it wasn't Tatooine. It wasn't that planet.
Okay. Because then Kenobi had to fly back to Tatooine to check on Luke.
Yes.
Because the girl decided she wasn't going to kill him.
Yeah, so I have seen the series. It wasn't Tatooine. They were on... it wasn't Tatooine. I don't know which planet they were on, but it wasn't Tatooine.
Okay, all right. Or... running around the desert. Well, at least he's got the mask. He can breathe through the mask and doesn't have to worry about the sand.
Yes, it's true.
I mean, that black, man, that would be bad, especially on a desert planet with two suns. That'd get pretty hot.
Yeah.
Better have some AC in that armor.
You know he does. He's got burns all over his body. Of course he has AC in that thing. All right, before we get too far, I'm going to quickly read one of your stories. Like, we've been talking for about 15 minutes, so I just want to make sure we get this done before anything. So I'm going to read one of Michael's stories. It's called I Woke in a Dark Room. Something horrible was in there with me. Just to warn you guys... What?
That's definitely one.
Is it a bad pick? Did I pick a bad one? Should I pick a different one?
No.
Okay.
That's actually one of the ones that I enjoyed doing the most, and people on Reddit just like blew me out of the water for it. But that's how it goes sometimes on Reddit.
This is true. Very true. And I was going to ask you afterwards, so about it if you wanted. So this works out.
Yeah. Okay, was Matsupu. Okay, Dr. Torment came up with the answer.
All right.
And yeah, I agree, Interscare. The Mandalorians, they would roast to death in their armor too.
Yes, it's true. That's why Tatooine's safe. No one wants to go there.
No one wants to live there.
No one wants to live there. Oh, and also wanted to warn people that this is a fairly longer story. You know, both. Darkness engulfed me. It devours me like a creature I fear most. I try opening my eyes and there's no difference. All I see is total black nothingness. It wouldn't be so bad if I weren't deathly terrified of the dark. At home, there's never a time when I'm allowed darkness to fully overwhelm the light. I have night lights and security lights lining every hall and in every room. I'm never 100% in the dark. That is, not until now. I feel beads of sweat forming on my forehead at the mere thought of what could be lurking in the icky blackness that envelops me. Even the most mundane holds terror when you can't see it, but your mind tells you that it's there. A throng of spiders waiting just out of reach to make me the next meal. A pile of snakes that you dangle a pit of snakes that dangle close to the... Oh, wow, I am having a moment. I'm sorry. That dangle close by. I'm gonna have to do that. I'm sorry. If you can't see, how can you tell if your eyes are open or closed? I reach down and press my head against the cold floor that I lay on. I stretch out my fingers, laying them flat to feel it. The cold creeps into them, its tendrils invading my body like a virus. It feels like the darkness is digging through my skin, deeper down inside me, to my bones, to my marrow, to my soul. I'm lost in the sea of gloom. I don't even know where I am. I'm terrified to make a move lest I tumble over the invisible edge. I don't know how I got here. I don't know where here is. I have no idea why I'm here, unless... As fearful as this mysterious place makes me, the thought of you, endless chills in me. Hold on. As fearful as the mysterious place makes me, the thought of the endless chills me to the marrow. Wow, I don't know why I can't say that one. I'm sorry. The darkness is even set aside for a moment in my mind, displaced by the useless. It seems so long ago. At the same time, it feels like it's just happening. The deepest, darkest place in my soul, the thing I keep locked up tight, never to pound, let alone discuss. The uselessness and untouchable. Only in the worst nightmare does my subconscious toy with the idea of the uselessness. Unlessness. No, I can't let it consume me. My thoughts running rapid won't help me to discover what this place is. I must do that first if the miracle of escape is even possible. I slowly slide my hand outward as far as it will reach, every micro moment preparing to withdraw it if harm is approached. With my senses, the only way to search for the harm is to sacrifice my hand. Like sending out a scout to see if the area is clear or if the enemy is close by. My hand reaches in limit unmolested. I change directions from straight out to an arc, feeling for anything like a one-winged snow angel. My hand discovers nothing, but the moment has simultaneously something of my lost senses. I hear the sliding of my fingers on the floor's surface. It echoes back to me quickly. I try once again, fast and louder this time. The echoes return almost immediately. My mind absorbs the details and makes a conclusion. The room must not be very big. Its alignment, the conclusion with the... My mind absorbs the details and makes a conclusion. The room must not be very big. It arguments the conclusion with the supposition that the floor is concrete. The smoothness, the cold, and the sound it makes all seems to come together. I further test the conclusion by forming a fist and knocking on the floor. The sound and feel of concrete, the hypothesis. The sound and feel cements the hypothesis. As I congratulate myself on my deduction, I hear something. Having not moved, I don't think the sound came from me. It happened only briefly, and I wasn't listening for any sound outside the ones I'd been making. My mind replays it and came to a startling conclusion. It sounded like a sigh, as if someone was unwillingly a cellmate in this musky prison. Relief and despair fought a furious battle at the knowledge of there being another in my company that I know nothing about. Company in this tenuous place would be a welcoming happenstance. They may even lead to our escape if we work together. However, if I'm here about the unless, then what horrible crime had they committed to be relegated to this torturous existence? Caution seemed more the right course. Perhaps my cellmate was unaware of my existence. Keeping it that way until I discovered more seemed a good idea. Armed with the knowledge of the floor's composition and the existence of a potential cellmate, I set about to gather more information about my surroundings. I rolled onto my back slowly so as to not make any noise that would alert the others to my presence, then used my other arm to stretch any obstacles within its arc. Finding none, I proceeded to move my legs as far to the side as possible, completing my concrete angel. Next on my list for the exploration, I slowly rolled over onto my stomach, making sure to feel as far with my hands that should a sudden drop-off present itself unannounced and end my journey in the most horrific fashion. Finding nothing to impede my progress, I took the next step of taking my first step. As I did, my shoes brushed the floor, making sounds under the normal circumstance would barely be noticeable. However, I wasn't in normal circumstances. The effect was immediate and terrifying. This time, there was no sigh. It was a low growl. I became a statue as liquid nitrogen rushed through my veins. The growl was deep and throaty, like a lion's, only somehow different. Each inch of my being clenched in a group of effort to stay as still as humanly possible. My hope was that this thing would think it had made a mistake and hadn't heard movement at any potential meal. It was more than a hope. It was a key to my survival. The problem was, I was trapped in a position, kneeling on my knees, about to get up. My knees on hardwood floor were starting to complain, and I knew it was only a matter of time until my balance wavered. I couldn't hold this position for long. I was already starting to shake from the effort. My balance was wavering. Beads of sweat were forming on my forehead. I hoped it couldn't smell fear because I was throwing out waves of it. My leg was shaking, my knee was screaming. I had to make a decision. Do I sit back down or go all the way up to standing? Whichever I did, I needed it to happen fast before my knee gave out and I collapsed to the floor in a noisy heap. I decided to stand, putting one hand on my knee and the other on the floor. I pushed up and descended. As I rose, my knees popped. It wasn't painful. but it was loud in this quiet room, so loud that it echoed back to me. I made it all the way to the standing position before I heard the growling again. This time it was followed by the sound that was much worse. First was sniffing sounds as if it was testing the air, searching for its prey. The second was a soft yet unmistakable sound of a footstep. I didn't breathe, so I waited to hear another. I listened for any sound, and unfortunately I heard one. It was this thing's breath. It was long and slow, as if the monster's lungs were huge to accommodate a massive body. The sniffing continued, but the second footfall didn't come. Perhaps it was as confused as I was on why it was here. I was never so glad about the darkness as I was at that moment. I was still terrified, but at least the darkness had become my ally, if only for a moment. I couldn't see the monster, which was a blessing in itself. My imagination was already picturing the most hideous, demonic thing that I ever cursed to the planet with existence. But the darkness was a double-edged sword. It couldn't see me either. If I stayed quiet, it might write me off as nothing more than a figment of its imagination. With only rhythmic breathing and no sound of pursuit, I took my first standing step away from the beast. With a measure and calculated caution, I stepped away from the sound of my bane and felt silently and cautiously with my toe on my shoe to make sure that there was floor to even step onto. My foot landed with the impact of a feather. I transferred weight to the leg and stepped with the other. With the lights on and no demon waiting to devour me, my motions would have been quite comical. As the situation was, there was anything but. I continued the task of silently escaping, listening intently for any changes in the monster's breathing. Time had no meaning in this place, but if I had to guess, I would say it took me nearly half an hour to take 10 steps. The 11th step, however, was the problem. When I put my foot out, it hit something. I immediately froze. I couldn't tell if it was something that had been hard like a table or soft like another creature lying in wait for some poor, stupid person to stumble into it. I drew my foot back and waited to see if whatever it was reacted. The darkness didn't abate. At times, I considered holding my eyes closed. At least that would keep them hydrated. For some strange reason, it also seemed to help me focus. I listened for any sign of this object was alive and or about to devour me. After a few moments, the only sound I heard was my own breathing. I tentatively stuck out my foot and touched the object again. It was hard and unyielding. I reached out with my arm, about to touch something solid. I felt around on it and bent down all the way to the floor. It was a wall. A rough texture, rigid, told me it was made of a concrete block. I reached as high as I could, even getting on my tippy toes, trying to find anything useful. I explored the wall, feeling my way to the right until I reached a corner. As tempted as I was to turn and feel down this new wall, I knew it ended at the side of the room where the monster dwelled. I had no desire to approach that thing without light and a very deadly weapon. As much as my fingers had become my eyes, my ears became my sonar, staying tuned to any sound. To this point, there hadn't been much. That didn't last. There was scuffling sounds that made me froze. It was followed by the sound of scraping on the concrete floor. A soft breathing had grown deeper and steadier. It was getting up. I stood in my corner, not moving, barely breathing, as I heard one soft footstep after another, getting louder with each step. It was curious about the other side of the room. My side of the room. I had to focus not to give in as a strong smell to follow. I hadn't used the bathroom in hours. Not that there was a bathroom in here that I knew of, but I would have used the other corner and then never returned to it until the nature called again. As the monster continued across the room, I could hear sniffing. It was hunting for me. My nerves told me to run. My mind told me to stand still. My bladder didn't care as long as it was emptied soon. The footsteps continued to approach. There was no doubt it was searching for me, and it would find me. My mind ran through every option available in a blinding dark room with a beast searching for its next meal that was slowly approaching. I hugged the wall and started towards the other side of the room. Common sense argued that I had no idea if there was another creature on the far side of the room, but there seemed to be no choice. As we continued our silent dance, I pictured the creature passing by as I slid against the wall towards its side of the room. When we had both reached the halfway point, I suddenly stopped. I froze and held my breath as it sniffed the air. For a long moment, it was totally silent. It seemed to be holding its breath as well, as if listening for me. I kept my eyes squeezed shut and focused on being totally still. My lungs were burning from holding my breath. I knew it would soon spill out the stale air and gulp for fresh. I also knew that this would be the end of me. The creature would know I was here, and it would use that sound to track me down and tear me to bloody shreds as it devoured me. The countdown had begun in my mind. It was a matter of seconds until my lungs gave out and I had to breathe my last breath. 10, 9, 8, 7. I heard a footstep. The creature was moving again. I held my hand over my mouth and slowly exhaled, then just slowly inhaled. It was difficult to keep my oxygen-starved lungs from demanding more air, but I was able to catch up quickly without breathing so hard as to make so much noise. I continued my perilous journey towards the unknown, carefully listening to the creature also continue its journey. As I reached the corner of my nemesis, fear gripped me as I stepped on something soft. I waited for an attack that never came. Slowly I reached down to explore the newfound softness. It was hair, soft fur, the kind that an animal would shed. All my suspicions were now fact. There was an animal in here. It wasn't just my imagination. My fear and anxiety were fully justified. As I made my realization, I heard my nemesis reach the far wall and bump into it. It then began sniffing at it. It must have caught my scent. It knew I was real too. The sniffs were getting closer. I allowed myself a moment of panic before realization that the only thing I could do was continue my course around the room. I made my way through the blanket of fur and headed for the far wall, feeling as if I went for the one thing that many hold my potential rescue, a doorknob. So far, there had been no indication of a door whatsoever. I prayed for that unexplored wall would be a remedy that. I continued on this insane, deadly game of ring around the rosy, stepping up my speed as soon as possible while still staying silent. The only thing to know You're It's one thing to know you're being hunted. It's another thing altogether to ring the dinner bell by giving your position away. I was counting on it becoming confused when it circled back to its own nest. It was still as dark as ever, and apparently this thing didn't have any better night vision than I did. I reached the far corner, and hope surged through me that I would find a door. My escape seemed imminent, and any moment. I stepped up my search, going faster along the wall, but also feeling as much of the surface as possible in search for my desired door. My hopes came crashing down when I reached the next corner without finding anything. It couldn't be. It had to be here. How else did this demon and I enter the room? My despair crushed me like a ton of bricks. There was nothing left to do. This thing would eventually catch me, and there was no escape. In the middle of my pity party, I noticed something. The room was silent. I couldn't hear sniffing. I couldn't hear its breathing. I had no idea where it was. I tried to keep my breathing under control as panic washed over me. There was nothing to do but wait. In the darkness, I felt something soft brush against me. It had found me. The subtle growls were no longer across the room. It was right here in front of me. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I felt a river run down the inside of my pants as my bladder finally gave up the fight. A sharp claw ran across my throat. Not hard enough to cut, but enough to let me know I was about to die. I couldn't take it anymore. The darkness, the silence, the menace. I screamed to the top of my lungs. I screamed over and over. It wasn't even words, just primal sounds that escaped me. Every wail as a baby, every cry of pain, every shriek of fright as I awoke from a nightmare. I let them out, the screams of my victims as they suffered at my hands, the screams of their families as the court sentenced me, the screams inside my mind in a cell, alone, thinking only of the unless. The unless. The unless. The unless. Suddenly the light came on. I covered my eyes and warded off the brightness. As I slowly adjusted, I was able to look around the room. The creature was gone. No, it couldn't be. I looked over the wall where I'd walked through the fur, but there was none. I looked all around, but there was only a blank wall. Where is it? 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 I turned around and around, but it was gone. Had it ever really been here? A door opened and two large men dressed in white came in. No, I screamed. Don't come near me. I'll get you. They marched across the room, oblivious to the danger, and picked me up. It's time to go back to your room, one of the men said, picking me up under the shoulder. The doc says you've had enough therapy for today. Did you see it? I said. They carried me out without answer. They came into a hallway that stretched forever. I tried to look back to the open door. Don't let it out, I said. You gotta keep it in. They didn't bother to look back, just continued down the hall. I turned and saw it peeking its head out of the room. No, I screamed. They didn't stop, didn't slow, just picked me up on my feet, dangling off the floor until we reached a room. They unlocked it and set me inside my bunk. You should probably get cleaned up, one of the men said as I tried to get up, but he held me down. You know how this goes, he said. You stay on your bunk until we lock the door. The second man backed out of the room, and the first man released me and followed. I ran to the door. You don't understand, it's loose, it will kill you all. They turned and walked away. No! I screamed as a tiny window of my door. I pounded on that door for a long time, but no one else came by. Maybe it had already gotten them. Maybe it would come to my door and peek in my window with blood dripping from its mouth. I stepped back from the door, feeling exhausted. I looked over at the tiny shower stall and did what they suggested. Everything was built into the wall, the shower, the sink, the table, the bed. There was nothing I could use to hurt myself or defend myself. After I took a shower and put on fresh clothes, I sat at my desk and wrote what had happened with the monster. When I was done, I lay down and hoped I'd be able to rest. At that appointed time, the lights went out. The darkness engulfed me. It devoured me like the thing I fear most. I lay there with my eyes open, waiting. In the black nothingness, I hear it, a soft growl. And that's the story. And I wish...
Good.
There's a few words I had problems with there.
Ironically, that's one that hasn't made it into one of my books yet.
Really?
Yeah, I put that one on Reddit, and a lot of my books up to where I started writing the Dark Tales, the Cryptid series, were more like just random horror stories, kind of like Twilight Zone stuff, and that's what the category that this kind of falls into, where it's not in the whole park ranger cryptid hunter kind of thing. And it's like my stories I kind of collect into different folders for when they get full enough. Then it's like, okay, let's form this one into a book, and that's where this one is too. So it actually hasn't been out in print yet, but that's one of those stories that I love writing, because it just comes from, I actually started writing this just like trying to write a story where I would just build tension, and that was the entire purpose. I just wanted to start out and write this story, and I wanted to put this character in the worst possible place that I could, and just continually build tension and whatnot. And of course, the story kind of formed itself as it went, with the nice twist ending at the end. But yeah, I really enjoy writing stories like that, where it's just like, it's not in any particular world. There's not any particular preformed character. It's just like start out with a blank slate and say, okay, what are you going to do to this person? What's the worst possible thing you can do to this character? And then go from there.
What is the worst thing I could do to you?
Yep. Yeah. I sometimes I feel really bad for my characters, for some of the stuff that I put them through, but oh well, they're my characters and they just got to suck it up. But
if they don't like it, they can protest.
Yeah, and go tell the monster about it and see what he says.
Yeah, exactly. Hello, Horror on the Rocks, and thank you for the $2 donation. Remember, hit that like button and make sure it feels it. And everyone seemed to really enjoy the story. September is actually on a run and said that was a perfect story to listen to while running.
Awesome. Now, my new book is not, it's not those Twilight Zone stories. It's more cryptid hunter stuff, of course, from the name, but it's one that I kind of started out writing a little story where this park ranger kind of got into this situation, but as I was writing it, it kind of it's horror and it's humor. Mm-hmm. This park ranger is just a snarky, smart aleck. He doesn't really care about nothing, and he kind of stumbles into this situation. And I really love writing him because I don't have to worry about manners or anything like that when I'm writing. This guy can be a real jerk, but it's in a funny way. So I mean, it's kind of like one moment he's being chased by a cryptid, and the next time he's smarting off to his coworkers. So this latest book, Misadventures of Cryptid Hunter, was actually the most fun I had writing any of my books. So yeah, I really love it, and I know everybody wants to hear parts of it and say, "Oh, I want to hear something," but it's kind of tough because it gives away story. Mm-hmm. I will say one of my favorite early scenes is when he first discovers a Bigfoot. And I'll give away this scene. I've already done a little bit of it on YouTube where he's this park ranger that really doesn't like his job. And so, it's his job to go around and close up the gates at the end of the night and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So he's down by the lake. He's just closed up the gates and there's like nobody around. He's got to go to the bathroom. So he just whips out and starts peeing in the lake. And as he's doing that, this Bigfoot walks up just like a dozen yards from him and just starts drinking out of the lake. And suddenly just stops and looks over and sees what the park ranger does, and it just spits the last mouthful of water back into the lake and just stares at him. So that's kind of, that's like my first, when I wrote that scene, I was immediately hooked on writing this book, because if I have a character that can get away with doing that, it's like, okay, what else can I get this guy to get away with? But, there's not only that part, but there's also, where he gets into very real, very dangerous situations going around hunting cryptids. So, it's kind of the roller coaster thing where, you have this tension where he's about to get ripped apart, and then like 2 pages later, he's, insulting someone and just like throwing out jokes and stuff like that. So I love it. I absolutely love it to death. I can't wait to dig into book 2. But I started myself on a journey here. I had a book that I wrote. It was the first novel I actually finished. It was only like 27,000 words. It was barely even a novella, but it was a zombie book. And I never published it. And I actually lost it for a while because I wrote it in Microsoft Works, and those writers out there will back me up that Works and Word are not compatible. So like I lost it for several years. And then here, like last year, I was able to dig it out of an old hard drive, and I found it again and got to transfer it back over to Word. And I read through it, and aside from the writing being so cringy, I realized that there was a whole lot more story to it. So it's actually transformed into, it's going to be a 5-book series that I already have book 1 essentially done, but I wanted to get to where I have at least like book 1, 2, and 3 done. And then I'm going to start rapid releasing them like either a month or 2 months apart. And I want to have all of them out by the end of 24.
Oh, wow.
So it's an undertaking.
Yes.
But the Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter is probably the funniest book I've ever read, ever wrote. And I love the character. And also, once again, I love putting him through his paces. He definitely does not have an easy time of it the whole way through. Yeah, so, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
But the others, the Dark Tales series is more of the short stories, but they're all like park rangers and cryptids and stuff like that.
I asked you if I could read a story from that book, but you told me that it's specifically has to be narrated by a specific narrator, which I get. So that's why I picked a random story to show off your writing skills. So
yeah, a lot of stories on Reddit I haven't actually put into a book yet. Most of them have gone into a book, but there's still several like that one that, I mean, since I've been on this whole park ranger cryptid hunter thing, and the other one with the truck drivers and cryptids, like those other stories like this one have kind of slipped in the cracks until such time as I get get enough of those stories together to make it into another collection. Hey, Horror on the Rocks, you want to read it? Go for it. Anytime anybody on my Reddit page says, hey, can I read this? I say, yep.
Well, not that book though.
No, not the Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter, but the story that she read.
Yeah, no, he's talking about the smart aleck.
Oh yeah, that's actually kind of locked up. When Mr. Creeps and I, when I first brought it to him and said, hey, I've got this story, he's like, okay, and we kind of like agreed on this exclusive thing where he would be the only one that would do these stories, because they're actually, I wrote them as short stories. Like each chapter was written as a short story, but it's part of the overall story as well. So he got part 1 out on a video, but that was like a year ago. And part 2, I've been kind of pestering him. It's like, when are you going to do part 2? And he keeps telling me soon, but and this book actually is like parts 1, 2, and 3. If you would consider breaking them up the way he's going to read them. So, I would love to have other narrators read it, but right now it's kind of a deal with Creeps and I.
Yep, that makes sense. I've run across that more than once, where it's like, no, I specifically wrote this for a specific for a specific narrator and stuff like that. So that's not unusual at all, actually.
Yeah, and I think Creeps does a good job. I liked his style, his voice, and whatnot from before I was even on Reddit, just listening to creepypastas.
You said Mr. Creeps, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. It is the one I'm thinking of. I've always been terrible with names, I will not lie. So names and pictures are like, they don't normally go with things, so, but it was the person I was thinking of. So. Was there anything else that you want to mention before we wrap this up?
Thank you, Cindy, for getting Dark Tales of Cryptids and Park Rangers. Appreciate that. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say more about Misadventures of a Cryptid Hunter, but like I said, to say too much is going to give it away. And I mean, it really is. It's an easy story to get into. Yeah, it might take a little bit there, the first chapter, but once you start following that character, my beta readers all said that it was so fast-paced that they loved it. It was really easy to get into that character, even though he's kind of a snarky son of a gun kind of character at first, but you really get him later on.
And sometimes snarky characters are the fun characters, though.
Yeah, I mean, that's why Han Solo is so popular. He's just like, I really don't give a rip. And that's kind of what this guy's attitude is, what, tell me I'm fired, I don't care.
Tell me I'm fired, I'll tell you about the thing I saw at the lake yesterday.
Yeah, well, he actually comes to a little bone of contention with his boss.
That's fair.
But
who doesn't? Who doesn't yell at their boss sometimes?
Oh. I love my job, but sometimes.
Yeah, I used to really love my job too. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this evening. So next week, right now, I don't have another guest lined up, I believe. Hold on one second. I will double check. I am incorrect. I believe it's Dark Little Voices. No, it's Dr. It's Dr. Torment next week, actually. Stupid thing. Yes. So next week I'll have Dr. Torment with me. So that will of course be at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, US time. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining me today.
Thank you.
And thank you for letting me read one of your stories.
Absolutely. I appreciate it.
Well, I hope you guys have a great week. And of course, on Sunday, another video will be out. It'll be fiction ones for you guys. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Take care.